Hi everyone, here's what's bothering me today. I think it's high goddamn time that I actually talk about urban food security because I was recently left absolutely reeling by a story from Britain. Professional shitposter and friend of the channel, John the Duncan, was posting on Twitter comparing a Tory MP being really silly, or at least I think it was the Tory MP, while also pointing out that apparently scurvy is making a comeback in Britain. Now, still very low numbers, but in terms of the case numbers compared to how few there were and how more of the fewer there are now, it's still pretty damning. And I was just sitting there thinking, how the hell is scurvy back? There's no way. As I said, I absolutely require that scurvy headline to be parody. But unfortunately, it's real. Which, how the hell can scurvy, quote unquote, come back and double in cases from 37 to 112? That's tripling, more than tripling. Just what the actual fuck? How does that happen? You ward off scurvy by getting enough vitamin C. You get vitamin C through vitamin C rich foods, which is a variety of fruits and vegetables. You get it in carrots, kale, cranberries, oranges, red grapefruit. All these things are available. But this brings us to the core problem, and it's a problem that we also face here in North America. As someone accurately pointed out, good luck getting fresh fruit at the food bank. And yeah, unfortunately, that's a grim reality because of oh no, we don't know where it came from, and because of refrigeration, etc., and we don't want to be held liable, we can't take fresh fruit. And again, if you're trying to make what little money you have go a long way, you're going to buy the cheap, subsidized, unhealthy food. This is why, even though people are poor, they can also be overweight, which is why that right-wing argument of, oh yeah, sure, you're clearly starving on poverty, it's so much bigger than that, you absolute ghouls. But anyway, I want to talk about that aspect of food security and how things like fresh fruit and vegetables are really unavailable and unaffordable to a great many people, especially those who often rely on food banks. We also see it in remote communities here in Canada, like in Arctic communities, for example, where thankfully it's starting to get a bit better now with certain initiatives. But yeah, trying to get access to fresh fruits and vegetables, pretty hard in such a harsh environment where the sun doesn't shine for half the year. And yes, sure, there's farmers markets, and look at all the great food produce you can get at your local grocery store, or even at local fruit and vegetable markets in your local Koreatown, Chinatown, etc. But not everyone has access to that. There are plenty of urban areas that are food deserts. Just type up food desert in Canada and you'll see how many food deserts there are in places like Toronto, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, Vancouver. It's a problem here, and we also hear about it in the States. You can even see maps showing counties that are basically food deserts, entire counties. And, as some of you know, we are quite lucky where we are right here. We have a nice big yard. We can plant a whole bunch of veggies. Sure, I don't have a fruit tree anymore, but there's a raspberry patch. Sure, we have the means and the space in order to have some measure of food security and fresh produce throughout various different seasons in the growing season. But there's plenty of people in an urban environment, whether you're in Toronto, Vancouver, New York City, Los Angeles, where that's not really an option for you. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to finally, I've been wanting to talk about this for it feels like an eternity now. I've wanted to talk about what people in a more precarious urban situation can do with regards to fresh fruits and vegetables, and having to potentially bypass any rat bastardry from landlords or apartment buildings and condo corps and stuff like that. So first off, some easy things you can do is actually just start talking with your various neighbors. If you're in an apartment building, whether it's a big apartment building or a small apartment building, talk with, if you have just one landlord, or there's it's part of a business or a corporation that owns it, start a movement with your various neighbors and say, hey, let's try and get a small little community garden going, either somewhere on the property, or we can like put it on the roof of the building, wherever it may potentially, hopefully make sense, and if there's space for it to happen. Same applies for larger apartment buildings or condos. Something like that can really help. Alternatively, if that fails or if that doesn't seem to work out, you can also reach out to your local municipal elected officials. Tell them, hey, look, if we can't get, a new grocery chain to come in here, can you at least set aside a portion of this park that's basically just an empty field anyway? Can we turn that into a community garden for the people in these various buildings that often use or traverse this park or this green space? Maybe there's just an abandoned parking lot and you can say, hey, let's just put some, we can remove them later when it's eventually developed, but at least for now, let us put some garden beds in here. Let us create a small little community garden for people who clearly need it in this area. It's an objectively good thing. So those are two really easy things you can do in terms of organizing with your neighbors and contacting your landlord or, condo council or condo corporation, whatever it is that you have to deal with. These are the easiest ways to at least get something started. But what happens if they say no? If they say no, you can do something that I heard about. This is like, as far as I can tell, an urban legend, so take it with a heaping dose of salt. But I had heard tales of some people in Montreal who had decided, they asked their landlord, hey, can we put like a small greenhouse on the roof and have like a communal veggie garden? Oh, well, no, that would be too expensive and it's against the bylaws and blah, blah, blah. So what these neighbors did, and it was like a small mid-rise and like I think 8 or 10 units. Like you probably know the kind of like slightly older apartment building with like 4 units on one side, 4 units on another side, balconies at each end. And so the urban legend that I heard from these tenants in Montreal is they decided, okay, well, since we can't get, a permit or permission or whatever to build a greenhouse or put a little veggie bed in like one of the parking lots or like one of the parking spaces or something like that, well, then why don't we just coordinate our balconies? And so what they did was they basically made a list of, okay, what veggies do people like to grow or know how to grow or that you really like to consume, fruits, etc. And they basically made a small list of what they realistically could do. So, I don't know exactly what it was. Again, I'm fairly certain this is hearsay, but I think it's still a good idea. So, someone really likes fresh limes, so they grow a small little lime plant. Someone else likes chilies. Someone else loves a little herb garden. Someone loves their tomatoes. Someone likes, zucchini or, bell peppers. So they took stock of like what they had and what they liked or knew how to grow. And then they also thought about what are some other things we could grow, who has space on one of their balconies or in like a very sunny area that you can grow either a fruit tree or a different kind of like berry bush, or you make a little bed for kale or something. Oh no, see, it's totally my ornamental kale. You see where I'm going with this? And so it was just a very small, again, allegedly, group of people who got together and basically on their front and back balconies started growing a kind of unofficial multi-tiered veggie patch. And the landlord couldn't do anything because guess what? They could do what they want on their balconies. Like, you're allowed to grow plants on your balconies. That's considered your property or your personal space. And it's not like they were doing like, big impressive hanging gardens. It was just a couple plants or bushes or, ornamental kale here and there that people were taking care of and then pitching in together. And also they would just have communal meals like, oh yeah, we're going over to this unit and having a meal together with fresh produce. And I think that is just so wonderful. But again, like, I haven't been able to find a story that corroborates it. It's just hearsay from like a friend in Montreal, basically. But even then, I think it's a good idea worth exploring. And I mean, if someone wanted to be a real annoying sleuth with it, it's like, yeah, let's just quote unquote rent out an apartment. And we basically, instead of using hydroponics for weed, we just instead use it to create a veggie patch inside someone's living room. And that way, at least people on this floor get some access to some fresh veggies. Like, that's going really the extra mile. I love the urban legend of just converting various balconies and coordinating with your handful of neighbors to create an unofficial community garden for your apartment building. So I hope these are ideas that people can begin to work with and realize, oh yeah, no, we could totally do that either in our small little apartment building, or you know what, even just on our floor, maybe, we get everyone, especially on the south side, to, grow some stuff, and we can have a little internal farmer's market or something. Or you start a petition within your own building or your condo to try and get a greenhouse, a veggie patch, or again, appeal to your local municipal elected officials of, hey, like we need more garden veggies in our lives. So can we plant like a fruit tree and a veggie patch here? This is an underutilized lot, whatever it may be, right? Try and work with people and build some momentum in your local communities so that you can then speak with one voice and actually make your voice heard to whoever it is. The condo board, the landlord, your local municipal elected official, whether it's the mayor or like one of your local councilors. These are all things that we can do right now. Like you can wake up tomorrow and start on these projects. These are relatively straightforward things we can do that I think would add some much needed hope into our lives. And if even just, half of the proposals are successful, that is more people in food deserts or impoverished communities further developing a stronger social bond with their neighbors, and also achieving a little bit more food security and just a little happier and a healthier diet. There's no negative drawback to any of this. And these are all things we could start doing tomorrow. But yeah, the fact that this all, again, kind of finally I was spurred to do all this because of the revelation that scurvy is, rising again in Britain when, that's a major developed country. You would think, especially since we all know how to avoid scurvy, that, this would not be a thing. But unfortunately it is. It's a very real story. Oh yeah, that's definitely what's bothering me today.